There is growing interest in something called central bank digital currency.
Central bank digital currency.
Central bank digital currency.
Central bank digital currencies.
But if you're a freedom-loving American like I am, you need to be wary of this government plot to control our spending and create a bunch of cash cops. And I do mean everyone's spending, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or whatever Robert Kennedy thinks he is these days. You need to be concerned. So first of all, why are people so interested in CBDC? There are two main reasons. People are using less and less physical currency. Even writing physical paper checks or even mailing a check via your bank's bill pay is becoming an obsolete thing in the past. Most of our transactions today are already digital in the sense that we swipe a card and we see little digits on a screen when we log into our bank account to check our balances. So in that sense, having a digital currency is probably the future of money, whether we like it or not. The second reason is a growing desire to help some communities get easier access to banking and banking services. About 5% of adults in the US don't actually have a bank account. And if the electric company doesn't have a counter where you can go in and hand them cash, and they don't have a mailing address where you can mail them a money order, it can be really hard to pay your light bill. So CBDC is supposed to make it easier for these unbanked people to become banked like the rest of us. But this all also makes it easier for the government to come after you, find you, and punish you financially. Because the main difference between digital representation of currency, which you see when you log into your Wells Fargo account online, versus central bank digital currency, is that the Federal Reserve becomes your bank, not Wells Fargo. You're literally banking with the government. If the government is holding your money, the government sees everything in real time. You bought a new rifle last week? They know. You donated to Black Lives Matter? Yep, they know that too. You returned that Christmas sweater that Grandma got for you, even though you said you liked it? They know that as well. And with that knowledge, it's even easier for the government to come after you if you're on the wrong side. Now, maybe today you think the government's great and you're happy with what they're doing and the people they're coming after. But just turn the tables with some election down the road, and you wouldn't be so happy to have the government knowing every single purchase you make in real time. Canada doesn't have a CBDC yet. But look at what just happened a few years ago with the Freedom Convoy.
A state of emergency has now been declared in Ontario to give police more powers to shut down demonstrations. But most insist they're not going anywhere.
Back in 2022, a large group of Canadian truckers were upset with the COVID mandates. The US and Canadian governments wanted all the truckers to be vaccinated before crossing over the border and back again. As their movement continued to grow, the organizers set up a GoFundMe campaign to support the protest of these mandates, and they raised over 10 million Canadian dollars. After pressure from the government, GoFundMe eventually shut down the whole campaign. And even worse than that, the Canadian government was freezing bank accounts of suspected protesters so they couldn't buy the necessities of life. Ordinary citizens who weren't even protesting, who simply made a donation to the GoFundMe campaign, also had some of their accounts frozen. Thankfully, the Canadian courts just ruled that the seizure of the accounts was wrong and without lawful authority. However, it took 2 years for that decision to wind its way through the courts, and it's still going on for an appeal. While this kind of monitoring and seizure can obviously happen without CBDC, if the government is the one literally holding your purse strings, all they have to do is make a simple phone call and flip a switch to do whatever they want to do to control you and punish you for whatever cause you may be supporting. But for argument's sake, let's say the government never decides to seize any accounts or freeze any assets. CBDC still makes our money more like airline points, bonus miles, or Starbucks rewards. Back in 2021, Delta devalued their Sky Miles to make European flights more expensive. And cashback rewards on credit cards seem to change with the wind. You get 5% cashback on gas stations this month, then the next month it's restaurants, and then electronics stores sometime after that. And the stars you earn at Starbucks eventually expire. What if the government decides to do the same thing with your hard-earned money that's sitting in a CBDC account at the Federal Reserve? What if they decide to devalue the currency, but only if you spend it on gasoline, to try to push you to buy an electric car? Or what if your tax return money expires unless you spend it by May 1st? It would be incredibly easy for the government to put their thumb on the scale and move the markets however they want. All they have to do is make your money expire, or devalue it, or maybe increase its value if you do the thing the government wants. Now, if you've been living through the last few years like we all have, you know that the government can devalue the currency anytime it wants by simply spending more money, refusing to cut its own spending, etc. But CBDC still makes it easier for the government to devalue currency anytime it wants in very specific ways. And that's where the huge danger lies. If you've ever tried doing your own taxes, especially beyond the 1040EZ, you know how complicated the tax code is. Now, can you imagine if the US government had a currency code that controlled every dollar that comes in and out of your bank account and what categories it can be spent on or what the value is if you spend it on certain things versus others? It would be insane. Much better to let the market decide how all that works. So what can you and I do to defend ourselves against this? I think it's a good idea to learn about cryptocurrency and how it works. Now, this is not financial advice, and it's not legal advice either. I'm not promoting any cryptocurrency over the other, and I'm certainly not suggesting you trade in all of your US dollars for some type of crypto. Instead, you need to start to learn how it works. The best way to learn how cryptocurrency works is to set up a wallet and put a few dollars in there. We're not talking about investing in crypto, we're talking about learning how it works and being comfortable moving money to and from different cryptocurrency wallets. You could give it a whirl by dropping a few sats in my Bitcoin tip jar. Because what's great about crypto is that it's decentralized. Yes, it's digital currency. However, it is not controlled by the government. And this is one reason governments are scared of cryptocurrency. You're going to hear stories about all the fraud that takes place and the money launderers and the criminals that are using crypto. But all that's already taken place in our existing financial system. The government has controls to try to protect the currency and safeguard you and I from fraudsters, but those same tools are being used to find and persecute people that the government doesn't agree with. There's no better time than right now to learn about cryptocurrency, because the great thing about it is that no individual, company, or government has control over your money. You hold your key, you hold your crypto. Now the reverse is true too. If you lose those keys or somebody else gets them, they now hold your crypto. If all that government tracking scares the bejesus out of you, you should take out your cell phone and smash it into bits right now. To see how the police are arresting innocent people based off of cell phone data, check out this next video. I'll see you there. And remember, don't talk to the police.